Some viewers may find this disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
This is why we have a cycle and a toxic culture, because nobody wants to tell the truth in Black America. It's so easy to be a victim. It's so easy to ask white people to bow down and apologize and do all these things for us. It's crap. It's crap. It's a lie. It's a farce. Our biggest problem is us, okay? It's why we don't talk about it when Black on Black crime happens. It's why we don't talk about it when 40 Black people are killed in one weekend during Memorial Weekend in Chicago. We don't want to talk about any of that stuff. We don't want to talk about Baltimore. We don't want to talk about New Jersey. We don't talk about any of these places where Black people are being slaughtered by other Blacks, because that would mean that we had to be personally accountable, right? That would mean personal responsibility. We don't do personal responsibility in our community. We don't do it. We blame white people, right? We only point a camera to white people when they do something, even though we do it at a way higher rate to ourselves, right? We celebrate our drug dealers. We're the only community, right, that would ever create hashtags to free people from prison because they committed crimes, like free Meek Mill, free this rapper, free this rapper. How hard is it to not spend multiple times in prison? How difficult is that? Is that too hard for us? Is that way too high of a mountain for us to...
Hi, my loves. It's Destined Choice and you're watching Choice TV. So in today's video, we're here to discuss CANDACE Owens.
We have Black women representing 6 to 7% of the population, and yet we account for almost 40% of all of the abortions that are performed in this country. More Black babies are aborted than born live. A hard-hitting truth is that the most unsafe place for a Black child is not on the streets, it's not when they see a police officer, it's in their mother's womb. More than half of the Black population would be double today if it wasn't for abortion. We've lost 18 million Black babies since 1973. How's that for a progressive policy? Is that what they're celebrating? Abortion is murder.
Is if you have a mental disorder, that's fine. I don't need to come up to you and tell you that I think you have a mental disorder. That would be rude.
Right.
But when you have a mental disorder and you're now requiring that I have a mental disorder, right, to meet your mental disorder, that doesn't work for me. Which is to say that if somebody was walking around as a schizophrenic and saying that they were Superman, and then telling me that I was required to treat them like Superman, I wouldn't play the game. Mm-hmm. That's how I feel about trans. I think the slope is so slippery, and they find that to be bigotry. No, I'm not going to call you she, I'm not going to call you her, just because you're a grown man and you're wearing a wig and a dress. That's literally telling me that I am now required to have a mental disorder because you have one.
Now, most of you guys already know who CANDACE Owens is, but for those of y'all who don't, CANDACE Owens is probably one of the most controversial people on the internet right now. CANDACE Owens has solidified herself as one of the most powerful commentators on the internet right now. CANDACE Owens is a 34-year-old YouTube commentator and political commentator, activist, New York Times bestselling author, and the woman is insanely successful. However, a lot of people don't like her, and I wanted to get on her today and discuss why a lot of people don't like CANDACE Owens.
Everybody can have a fucking voice. Are you gonna come at a teenager that has a voice too? At the end of the day, Candace, you've been trying to fucking sit down with me for like a year. You even offered me $250,000. Anybody that justifies the death of George Floyd, I don't want to talk to. I don't fuck with.
I got a lot of mixed opinions about CANDACE Owens because I feel like CANDACE Owens is very necessary. Initially, when I first saw her, I'm like, oh hell nah, this bitch is not real. She's definitely a fucking Boondocks or a Family Guy character. This is not real. This has to be satire.
I get angry when people go online and they say, I don't understand. I don't understand how this could possibly happen. I don't understand what would possess somebody to go buy an AK-47 and shoot up an elementary school. Well, you know what I don't understand? I don't understand why these people don't understand how we get to this point in society. Look around you. We have normalized every single step of mental illness. So it's difficult for me to comprehend what it is to these people that becomes the red line. Think about it. Think about everything going on every single day that the majority of people don't have the courage to stand up to. For example, this is a quick list, right? It must be the mutilation of bodies, of these young children's bodies, right? That's really making people stand up and say something. But these same people stand behind children being aborted in the womb up to 9 months. Where is your red line on that?
Look, I don't have a problem with CANDACE Owens, but shut up! It's little stuff like that that make people think that she's genuinely a troll trying to sell books and get attention. And Boondocks talked all about a lot of these activists who do a lot of these weird things to get attention. And this is not just for the conservatives, this is for both sides in general.
So are you even a Republican?
Hell no. You think I like going out there and saying this ridiculous shit?
So then why do it?
'Cause a bitch got books to sell, that's why. Ain't no money in trying to save the world.
We need Anne in makeup.
All I know is they better not stop this war in Iraq or I might have to start stripping.
And honestly, we'll talk about that later in this video. But what the hell is wrong with her? She's really off the fucking hinges trying to compare the mental health issue of a lot of these mass school shooters to trans people. I mean, I get where she's coming from, but no, this is just not the time.
And of course, Candace Owens grew up with a grandfather who mostly raised her for the majority of her life, and she grew up on traditional, conservative, and religious values that she still holds dearly to this day. Now, Candace Owens initially pursued journalism when she attended Rhode Island University. So she utilized all the skills she learned to create her own website back in 2015, 2014, and she created a website called Degree 180. And on this website called Degree 180, she was very critical of Trump, right-wingers, and people who were part of the Republican Party, basically leaning more towards the left. And honestly, Candace Owens woke up one day and then she decided that it was bullshit and she decided to switch over to the right wing. I don't know why. Maybe she wanted to do it to make more money. Maybe she had a spiritual awakening. But Candace Owens decided to basically wake up and she felt as though that when Donald Trump got elected, that plays a very big role in her awakening.
Question, how I got in, how I got to where I am today. And a lot of you guys know that I started my career on YouTube, which seems a crazy place for someone to jump into politics. And the backstory to how I got into politics by accident is really because Donald Trump woke me up as a racist, a sexist, a homophobe, a bigot, a transphobe. They called him every name in the entire dictionary, a racist, a sexist. At even one point, you'll recall, they called him incestuous. Remember the whole thing when they were doing that sick story? Oh, he has feelings for his daughter, Ivanka. They would not stop. They would not quit. And what it did for me is I started going, wait a second, I don't want the guy to be president either, but it's a bit bizarre to think that this man for decades was loved and nobody realized that he was literally Hitler, right? There were no stories that came out, nobody was chasing him, there were no bad tales, everybody wanted to be like Trump. Especially if you're a black American in this country and you grew up listening to hip hop like me, all of the rappers, all the cultural figures would drop Donald Trump's name in their mixtapes. Everybody wanted to be like Trump. He was a symbol of status, he was a symbol of wealth. People loved him and adored him. Even Beyonce and Jay-Z have music where they would sing about sipping poolside at Mar-a-Lago. And then just like that overnight, the media wanted me to think, no, forget everything we've been saying for the last 2 decades. This man hates and hates and hates, and we need to make sure that he gets stomped out.
She started off making YouTube videos criticizing liberal people and people on the left, and of course she got a lot of media attention from people like Alex Jones and a lot of other conspiracy theorists and a lot of other white male conservatives who put her on their platform.
Approximately 93% of black homicide victims are killed by other black people. Nobody wants us dead more than we want ourselves dead. Everybody involved in this fake racial war is a loser.
Candace, I know about your story, but this is riveting. I want to beg you to come on the full show sometime with Paul and I and share these stories. Paul, what a great guest.
Now, one of her most wild moments that went viral many years ago was when Candace Owens decided to try to debunk the whole ICE situation, where she tried to find out how illegal immigrants who came into America were living in these ICE camps, because of course there was a lot of media frenzy about the kids in cages. Candace Owens decided to pull up to one in Florida, and she decided to basically pull up with a whole camera crew to find out how a lot of these people were living.
I spent the full day touring all of the prisons, and today I was able to get access to go into an actual immigration center that is here in Broward County. I'm going to show you guys where I'm at. I hope this is the most viral Periscope video that I do. I genuinely hope that every single person retweets this, because what I have just seen, I am incensed, I am horrified, and I am angry, okay? Children are being mistreated in this country. They are not the children that are sent to ICE immigration centers, okay? They are the children that are in Chicago. They are the children that are in Baltimore. They are the children that are in Detroit. They are the children that are being ignored while the leftists drum up a bullshit narrative that these immigration centers are somehow harming people. Let me tell you what I just saw when I walked in there, okay? And by the way, I'm with an entire film crew. So I'm about to blow up this narrative in a way that the left is not expecting because they are filthy, disgusting liars. And I'm sorry that I am so angry right now, but what I just saw was astonishing, okay? This place is nicer than where I went to the public school system. I went to Stamford, Connecticut public schools. This place is like an elementary school. There are colors on the wall everywhere. There's a nursing station that is so clean and so nice where they dine. They're sitting down laughing, eating food. They have people that go to the counter that can participate if they want. They can help cook if they want. Let me tell you what the activities they have here. I walked in on the women that were in their arts and crafts session. They had just concluded their fucking Zumba class, okay? In the same room that they do their fucking Zumba, they also have to do their arts and crafts, okay? That's just for the woman's side. They are all welcome. There is a sand volleyball court. There is a sand volleyball court, which they are all welcome to play anytime that they want to in the center of the section. There are phones that line the entire place where there's a sand volleyball court, a foosball table. What else did I see? There are pool tables. There's a soccer field, okay? Because in case they want to play soccer when they're outside, there should be a soccer field that is adjacent to the sand volleyball court where they can play. They're all laughing. They're having a good time. And listen, I'm not saying that people that come here should not be treated well. That's not the argument here, okay? But these people are treated great. They are treated fantastically. Everything that I just saw there was somewhere, I thought I was touring a place to send my child to elementary school. And by the way, I would have sent my child to this elementary school, okay? This is an ICE facility in Broward County, the source of so much debate and anger, and everyone came down to Florida because the left did what they do best. They made up a fucking narrative that is completely false and untrue.
And of course, she catapulted and she built a very big conservative audience. And of course, that came with a lot of money and opportunities to the point where Candace Owens was everywhere.
Candace Owens went viral back in 2016 when she made a YouTube video addressing how she's now going to be conservative because she realized she's always been conservative. She just has dimmed it down because she felt like that's what society kind of wanted.
Which makes a lot of sense because if you think about it, ask your grandparents how they feel about gender identity, how they feel about giving the government all control, how they feel about identity politics and voting for somebody simply based off of how they look. I'm telling y'all, a lot of y'all who are Mexican, Hispanic, El Salvadorian, Puerto Rican, Dominican, Jamaican, Haitian, like Puerto Rican, Polish, whatever you identify as, a lot of y'all who are religious or religion is tied to your culture are really conservative, but just don't realize it.
Many people believe that she's a very radical conservative and she's very disgustingly right-wing only because she has a lot of radical beliefs. She's also been known to be a conspiracy theorist in a lot of people's eyes because she also says things like this. Like she doesn't believe climate change is real. She thinks it's nonsense to distract us from the...
I don't know what to say.
She believes, for example, the music we listen to, that it's all a spell and that we're all being hypnotized. She also is very much against the jabs and she thinks the jabs are nonsense.
Where do you stand on these vaccine mandates? And obviously, I know that you are pro-vaccine. Obviously, you did everything you could to get this vaccine out. I know where you stand on the vaccine.
It was one of the greatest achievements. We did it in less than 9 months.
To be able to do that. Yeah, but now it's taken a twist, right? It's gotten, now we went from, this is a good thing and people should have this option, to military men, you're going to have to resign because you're not getting this vaccine. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I stand on, forget about the mandates, that people have to have their freedom, but at the same time, the vaccine is one of the greatest achievements of mankind. Very, very good. Came up with 3 of them in less than 9 months. It was supposed to take 5 to 12 years.
And yet more people have died under COVID this year, by the way, under Joe Biden, than under you. And more people took the vaccine this year. So people are questioning how...
Well, no, the vaccine worked, but some people aren't taking it. The ones that get very...
She also made it very clear that she's also against circumcision and how she thinks that it's an evil agenda.
For those of you that are not aware, you can also get a foreskin facial. You probably were thinking, Candace, this can't possibly get more gross. And the answer is yes. It is very popular right now amongst Hollywood celebrity circles to inject the cells from a baby's foreskin
specifically a South Korean baby's foreskin, again, back to South Korea, and why we are trying to promote them getting their circumcisions. It was eye-opening for me. It became a reason why I decided not to circumcise my son. And you might come out of this and say that you still want to circumcise your son, and I do not want you to feel guilty about that. I just want you to go into it and be educated and know exactly what's happening. I want you to have all of the facts and all of the knowledge so that you can make a decision out of knowledge and not out of peer pressure or out of fear.
And she has gotten a lot of backlash, even from people in the medical industry. And even though she did say some really off-the-wall shit right there, there is some truth to it, because even Sandra Bullock went viral many, many years ago, and this clip has been buried a lot. And she basically admitted, the actress, by the way, Sandra Bullock, admitted that she does use foreskin to keep herself looking youthful and help her skin looking more alive.
What are you pushing into the skin?
Well, you push in whatever the facialist would like to insert into your pores.
But what is it?
It is an extraction from a piece of skin that came from a young person far, far away, and they somehow figured out how to extract.
It's foreskin from a Korean baby. That's what it is.
Okay.
Who comes up with this?
I don't think, and it's not like I'm lying there with little pieces all over my face. It's like,
Who thinks of collecting it and having it for, we'll do something with this someday.
And why didn't we come up with that?
Right. We'd be rich.
And so we call it, I call it the penis facial, and I think when you see how good it is to your face, you too will run to your local facialist and say, give me the penis.
So there is an agenda for why a lot of people demand circumcision for a lot of their kids. A lot of times, people don't realize is we're only encouraged to do that because it benefits a lot of pharmaceutical companies. You know, you ever ask yourself, when you get your kids circumcised, what do they really do with that excess skin? And let's also not forget about that crazy moment where Kanye West literally co-signed her, which plays a very big role on why a lot of people in mainstream news even know who she even is.
Now, my honest opinions about Candace Owens, I think she's very necessary. I don't agree with a lot of the shit she says, but I do feel that Candace Owens makes a lot of very good points when she talks about certain things. For example, Candace Owens has made a lot of good points when she's given her stance on abortion. Now, I'm gonna be real with y'all. Candace Owens obviously makes it very clear that she's pretty much against it, and so do a lot of people who are heavily religious and conservative. But this may sound kind of fucking crazy, but I'm gonna just say it right now because I know nobody else will. I'm pro, if you don't got the fucking money or the funds, you better kill that shit. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but it's true. If you don't got the funds, you don't got the money, you don't have the means, why the fuck are you having children? People want to be like, oh, well, close your legs. Let's be realistic here. Most people aren't going to do that. So if you cannot take care of a kid, don't bring a kid into this chaotic and psychotic world. I know it sounds dark, and I know it sucks that a lot of us have kind of, normalized something like that. But who the fuck cares? Let grown-ass people do what the fuck they want to do. And it may sound kind of fucked up, but I, in my personal opinion, feel like things like abortion is a necessary evil. And that's just my personal opinion. And the same people who will tell me that I'm an idiot and sound ridiculous are the same people who support the death penalty. Death isn't right? Candace Owens also believes that society and tax dollars should have to pay for maternity leave. Maternity leave basically meaning that a mother gets a paycheck from her job or the government that basically takes care of her up until she's ready to come back to work.
Your maternity leave policy isn't magically decided once you have a child. People aren't doing things because they're evil. They're doing it on the basis of what they can afford. This is why I'm against federally mandated maternity leaves and paternity leaves, because what it actually means is that an employee has to simply pay. What is maternity leave? It means an employer is paying you to stay home and you're doing no work for them. It's essentially a charity. You're going to do absolutely nothing for me, and I'm going to pay you to stay at home. That is the reality. So park aside your emotions. So when a small business is considering how long their maternity leave is going to be, they are thinking, how long can I afford people? How long can I afford to pay people while they are not actually being productive and doing anything for me in return? It is an economic consideration, not at all an emotional one.
I get where Candace Owens is coming from, but at the end of the day, if billion-dollar corporations can afford to get all this inventory, can afford to hire all these employees, they can at least afford to pay an employee to stay their ass home and have their kid if they care about that particular employee.
Candace Owens has also been very vocal about the fact that she does not believe white privilege exists.
Oh, they definitely don't matter.
I'm an 8-year military veteran. I'm a college student. I'm a black woman, and I believe that white privilege fucking exists. So we're gonna start with that.
Thank you for your service.
And the reason why white privilege exists is because you guys refuse to acknowledge the history that put people in this position. You want to tell me that white privilege doesn't exist when white people had a fucking upper hand for 250 years to develop generational wealth, and that black people didn't get the right to fucking vote until the 60s, and you're going to tell me that white privilege doesn't exist?
So,
that sounds like it exists because you guys got the upper hand.
What's funny about that is blacks were doing better during
Why
that time.
Why do we always call people blacks?
No, because you did.
Can we just be black people? Can we just be like African Americans or something? Why are we just
the black
blacks?
community? How would you like it said? What makes you feel better on the inside?
Really, anything else other than what you're saying?
Tell me. I'll say how you want
anything
it.
else
I'll package it how you need it. Tell me what makes you feel
literally
better.
Anything else other than what you're saying.
Okay,
But
anything else.
Your point.
Why is it that anything else, right? In the Jim Crow era, blacks were doing better. Economically, we're outpacing whites under the Jim Crow era than we were doing.
It probably has to do with the fact that we had our own communities before the fucking KKK came and burned them down.
The KKK were Democrats, but give me a second. So after $22 trillion of government handouts and a black president
after how many years of slavery and 44
white
presidents, 44 white male presidents, 97% white male Congress.
So you're actually the reason why people like us can't do well, because they've sold you our oppression and you bought it. Blacks were doing better under the Jim Crow era.
If you acknowledge the oppression of other people, we can heal from it.
No, we can't.
But if you want to ignore it, we won't have anything happen.
That's not how this works. Dialogue and acknowledging things doesn't make us suddenly rich.
Now, for those of y'all who don't know much about Candace Owens' history, let me take it back really quickly. When Candace Owens was in high school back in the early 2000s, she was a victim of racism.
Now, in her home state, Connecticut, Candace Owens basically got a ton of gruesome messages on text messages from a politician's son who said the most disgusting, most outlandish things about her race, the way she looks, compared her to all types of animals. Even worse, the NAACP got involved because this was a big story back in the earlier 2000s when Candace Owens was in high school.
Of Connecticut, and as quick as it happened, these kids got arrested, and then as quick as it happened, it was over for like everyone, but not for me or these kids.
Now, Candace Owens said that the NAACP essentially used her story to get attention, got her settlement, and they essentially tossed it to the side and kept it moving. And she always felt like that gave her a bad taste in her mouth. And it even got so bad to the point where as Candace Owens started growing in popularity, people from her high school started exposing her for basically being a traitor to her race after what the NAACP busted their ass to get her.
She famously even stated that she thinks the NAACP is probably the worst thing to ever happen to black people. So let me just be honest for a second. Candace Owens can sit up here and say white privilege doesn't exist, and I know this comment section is going to be very controversial, but let's be honest for a second. In my opinion, even if many people may disagree, white privilege definitely does exist, but it exists in different ways. People think, oh wait, so can I walk around and just become a millionaire? Like, what about Beyonce? What about Jay-Z? What about these people? They have more privilege than the average white person, and that may be very true. There are a lot of wealthy black people in America, wealthy people of color. It doesn't have to be black. There are a lot of wealthy people of color who are able to elevate and progress. But let's be honest, a lot of white people had the upper hand when it came to developing, building bridges, building generational wealth, owning land. Because let's not forget, at one point, it was illegal for a lot of black people to own land. So a lot of people, because they were white, had that privilege. And it might have been in the past, but they were able to build generational wealth and build generational wealth and step ahead for generations before anybody else.
Let's also not forget about the times where a lot of black people are oftentimes harassed in grocery stores for allegedly stealing, even though they haven't stolen anything.
She think I'm stealing. Look.
Let's also not forget about the often infrequent times where a lot of redlining has affected a lot of people of color. Oftentimes, their property value will be much, much lower. The schools don't get funded. The parks are all fucked up. The parks are filthy. You know, even the potholes aren't filled up. The streets are disgusting. There's pee everywhere. There's nonsense and trash all over the grass. And this is usually if it's an urban area. But they won't do this to an area that, you know, caters to a certain lighter complexion. These are examples of redlining, examples that literally follow because of white privilege. So for Candace Owens to sit her ass there and say white privilege is not an issue today is fucking delusional.
I'll go into stores where they're not used to seeing black and brown people constantly come in, or when they do see black and brown people come in, like a Hispanic girl or black girl or black person or black guy, they usually get exposed to them for negative reasons. It's either they work with them or they're used to seeing you doing bad things. So automatically people have their preconceived notions based off of what they see. And sometimes managers can even go around telling people, oh, follow that girl around because you just never know, because we're used to people who look like that doing that. That's just a social privilege that a lot of black people don't have, and a lot of white people kind of have that upper hand. And it always turns into, okay, but that's just an individual. I mean, the shit that the media shows all the time, they always end up showing black and brown people still, and they're the main ones who do it. And I feel like I can't really get mad at other white people for that. I can only get mad at the black people or brown people or Hispanic people that put themselves in those kind of situations and make other black and brown people look bad. Like when they do bullshit and then there's media coverage all over the fucking TV of them doing some dumb shit, and then people automatically, when they don't, live near black people, automatically think, okay, yeah, this person is definitely up to no good. Because anytime I see a brown person, they're usually up to no good on my TV screen. That's what I mean by that. And sometimes people just can't fathom and understand it.
Then there was the infamous George Floyd situation where Candace Owens went out of her way to out George Floyd's criminal record and his very malicious and evil past of him doing some really foul things. And honestly, I did feel like Candace Owens was doing too much, but I did understand why she got on the internet to basically expose all of this.
And it's something that I refuse to stand by any longer, and I am not going to play a part in it, no matter how much pressure comes from black liberals and black conservatives as some token of people wanting you to believe that this is the only way you can be black, is you have to say this was wrong and that this person was amazing. I won't do that. George Floyd was not an amazing person, and as soon as this video hit the internet, I did just basic searches. Everyone jumped on it and was looking at the police officer, and everyone agrees that the police officer was wrong and the police officer has been arrested. So that is not the reason I'm not discussing that, is because that is not something that has been misconstrued in the media. He has been turned into the devil that he is, and there is no reason for us to harp on that any longer, because white Americans are not uplifting Derek Chauvin as a victim or pretending that he's an amazing human being. But George Floyd is being uplifted as an amazing human being. For those of you who have not yet seen the clips and did not pursue or wait for more clips to come out, first and foremost, George Floyd at the time of his arrest was high on fentanyl and he was high on methamphetamine. This came back in both of his autopsy reports. If you pursue the 911 transcript, you can see the person describing somebody who is out of their mind high, and which is what made the person fearful, because he tried to use a bill that I guess was a fake bill to purchase something, and then he was outside acting weird, and they, in their police call, said that this person was obviously distorted and on drugs. That is what you call a gap. And yet white people who represent 60% of the population, we represent 13, black men are 6%, only represent 50% of all the murders, right? That makes no sense. That makes no sense. A 6-point variation in a community where we are extreme minorities. We commit 50% of all violent offenses, evenly split, and we're only 13% of the population, okay? So we have a lot more encounters with police officers. And don't say the police officers are coming around because we're black. I'm talking about violent criminals. I'm talking about murder, 44% of murders, okay? You want to talk about real statistics? The police officers have way more to be fearful of in the black community than the other way around, okay? We commit, on average, a police officer is 18.5 times more likely to be killed by a black person than the other way around.
Now, what made things worse for Candace Owens was, regardless of whatever that man did in his past, it shouldn't matter. But what happened was Candace Owens kept milking the popularity and the 20 to 30 million views that she was getting from grilling, the Floyd situation and the Breonna Taylor situation and much more, was the fact that Candace Owens tried to go around and say that things like police brutality barely ever happen. Now, statistically, Candace Owens has a point when she says a white person is more likely to die. She's right when it comes to that. She has a point. However, she has to acknowledge that there is a lot of social bias when it comes to people who look a certain way, who have encounters with the police. And the root issue is we have to kind of get crime under control. I see where she's coming from when it comes to getting crime under control. But there is social bias with the cops. And she will never, ever go out of her way to try to condemn the cops for being socially biased and being socially fucked up. She'll never address the few token situations that go viral when a cop is fucked up because it doesn't go against her. It goes against the fan base that she's trying to tap into. She won't talk about the Philando Castiles or the other people who were wrongfully harassed.
And that's where Candace Owens tends to lose me, because she tends to be very biased, because she obviously got fucking books to sell. But at the end of the day, I do feel like her presence is very necessary, because she is forcing us to have these conversations that a lot of us are too afraid to have. I don't have a problem with Candace Owens, and clearly the way she looks is a big reason why she's so famous and successful. Not just the fact that she's articulate, it's just, come on now, she's a black woman saying all these things. You know, she's not racially ambiguous, she doesn't come from a rich family, she is a lower middle class woman who comes from nothing, built herself up, sells books, became really successful, and is a huge advocate for a lot of conservatives. Now, I also want to mention this. What really made me respect Candace Owens even more, for a lot of you who didn't know, is she was recently fired from her investors. If y'all didn't know, Candace Owens was partnered with the Daily Wire. The Daily Wire has supported Candace Owens for years. They gave her own documentary exposing Black Lives Matter, which, you know, they needed to be exposed. You know, they gave her a huge platform, endorsement deals, sponsorship. They took very good care of her. They pushed her, you know, hosted her events, all that stuff. However, she recently had to part ways from the Daily Wire because she made some comments that were quote-unquote anti-sweet potato pie. I'm not going to say the actual word, but she was very critical of the country Israel for basically their involvement in a lot of fucked up shit that goes on in the world, right along with the media. And long story short, the Daily Wire, the company that basically funds her show and supports free speech and supports her conservatism, essentially shut her shit down and made it clear that if she didn't apologize, she would have to go. She refused to apologize, and of course, she was let go. And that just goes to show you that Candace Owens is very necessary, and that maybe there's something deeper than just trying to sell books.
But that's all I got to say on that. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about Candace Owens and how do you guys feel about this deep dive breakdown. And give your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And yeah, that's that. Troyce out this bitch.
Baby, I just don't get it. Do you enjoy being her? I know you smell the perfume, the makeup on your shirt. Maybe leave this sorry of heaven time. This you are, I've heard the power, if I was a man, baby, you'd better empower what I do, and I put the whole back to you every night, doing me right, and with the first full of diamonds, a handful of rings, baby, you're a star, I just wanna show you all, you should let me love you, let me be the one to, let me be the thing you want in me. Baby, you should let me kiss you. Baby, to be. Baby, you should let me love you. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Thank you.